You've seen the movies, you know the villains, the gadgets, the stunts. But what if the posters were telling you things you never noticed? Today we're decoding the hidden gems inside the 1980s James Bond posters. Because these aren't just ads, they're blueprints for the movie and give us another layer of detail about the movie, the characters, the sex and hidden nuances that enhance our viewing enjoyment. All right, that's why we're here, Dan.
And Tom.
Of Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Today we have a special guest with us too. We have already done an in-depth analysis of the 1960s posters with Graham Rye, and Bill Koenig helped us break down the posters from the 1970s, so check those out. They've been very popular episodes all over the world. Today we're naturally dissecting the James Bond posters of the 1980s, and to do so, we bring back another old friend, and someone who might know this era of films well, as he grew up in it. Returning to Cracking the Code of Spy Movies is Mike Reyes, the senior entertainment correspondent at The Hollywood Show, as well as the creator of Mike vs. Mike. You may remember him from our episodes decoding the Mission Impossible series and pre-titles to Tomorrow Never Dies. And we're glad to have him back with us today. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Oh, Dan, Tom, it is more than a joy to be joining you again and derailing the conversation for another 3-hour bonanza. Let's go.
We are so happy to have you back, Mike. It's really, you're just a bundle of energy and knowledge, so it's great to have you here. So let's continue our journey through the 1980s this time. There were 5 movies in the 1980s, For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, and finally, License to Kill.
Oh, wow. Remember when you got 5 Bond movies in a decade? You had like the clockwork every two years. Like, I noticed it when I was a kid. Every 2 years, it's like, oh, Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997. Oh, World Is Not Enough, 99. And it just, like there's an old magazine I have. There was like a technical guide for Tomorrow Never Dies. And I think they even talk in there, oh yeah, we're working on Bond 19 next. And it's like, it's a machine. It's working.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Now we might not get 2 movies in one decade.
Here's why we're looking at posters, too, because there's really 3 parts to Bond movies. We got the pre-title sequence, and that kind of tells its own story. You got the main mission, which tells its story. But the posters tell the first story of the movie. And that's why we're focusing here on posters. I think they tell a great story. So we have to point out that there was a shift in the James Bond movies in the 1980s, a shift for power and equal presence for the James Bond women.
Oh, absolutely. And then to that point, something else that I would definitely point out in terms of, you mentioned this shift that's going on in the 80s. This is the decade of the blockbuster action hero. You've got Stallone, you've got Schwarzenegger, you've got movies like Conan and Rambo coming out, and action changed in this decade. Even the blockbuster itself changed in this decade. So as always, the James Bond films have to compete with what the modern market wanted at that point. And the posters kind of indicate that shift in some very unique ways.
Yeah, they do. Right. Yeah, I mean, the posters by the 1980s, with movies like For Your Eyes Only, 1981, The Living Daylights, 1987, there definitely was a shift towards portraying women as more active and empowered. And there were a lot of other shifts as well. Even the imagery.
Well, still sensual, like we saw in the past, female characters began to appear as Bond's partners or equals rather than just eye candy. They're still beautiful women, but their attire, while still stylish, it's often suggested competence instead of just, here I am. We've got evening gowns paired with weapons, and the posters reflected this.
No, I mean, that's definitely, that ties into not only the imagery changes because of the 1980s being what they were, but also it changes the message. And there is a subtle shift towards women being more integral to the plot, while retaining an air of sexuality that the Bond franchise has. But as you're going to see right at the top with For Your Eyes Only, the way that James Bond is framed with Melina starts to, it really is a powerful image towards how those characters would be linked in the film. And that's something, one more thing I want to put in there is this isn't just, hey, it's the 80s. We have to be progressive. This actually does fit the plot. And for better or worse, worse is kind of when we get into the Octopussy part, they commit to the bit. They commit to the bit. And you'll see why it's nothing. It's actually nothing about the women with the Octopussy example. That's I'll rant about that later. But yeah, shifting messages, shifting imagery, beautiful posters that weren't just Photoshop jobs. Like you still had painted posters right now.
Yeah, that's the beauty of these earlier posters. They were works of art. They were beautiful works of art. All right.
Okay, as we talk about this shift that's happening here, let's then move right into For Your Eyes Only, because this really starts to mark the tonal reset. And what specifically changed here? There's less fantasy than the late Roger Moore era from the 1970s.
I agree with that, but at the same time, it's still very much there in the final two installments, and I think there's a good reason for that. And it has to do with, again, box office performance and just the tone. It does fit the tone. It gets more ridiculous with Octopussy and with A View to a Kill, but it fits with the way that things were going with the films. And you'll see that, especially with the 7 arms in Octopussy, eight arms.
Eight. Yeah, it has to be 8. I counted
Keep
them multiple
the number
times.
8 in mind, folks. It's going to come up later.
All right.
But here in For Your Eyes Only, we get a more grounded espionage. I mean, because let's face it, after Moonraker, they needed to put Bond's feet back on the ground. I mean, it had gotten a little out there.
Very much so.
Yeah. Although the posters still sell spectacle right now, even here with this movie. And that's what we see first. But they must do their job and be powerful enough to hook us. I mean, they need to reel us in for us to go see the movie.
Yeah, and I think the posters are doing something interesting here. They promise excitement, as most of the posters have, but they're doing that at the same time as hiding realism underneath all of this. So they've done it all along, but I mean, to one degree or another. But when you dig into these works of art, we discover lots of nuances and new things. So let's dive in head first, avoiding the coral. And For Your Eyes Only.
Okay, and if you're watching this episode on our YouTube channel, you're going to see the posters we're talking about. Yes. And the first one we're going to look at here is a famous one. It's the horizontal poster where we're looking through the legs of a Bond woman, which is always a nice thing. With Bond is in the background, framed by her legs. There's underwater activities and a car and helicopter chases to the left and right. And there are a few variations of this poster. So if you're watching the YouTube video, you'll actually see the exact one we're talking about.
Yeah, and this poster was created by the American designer Bill Gold, who did the original legs concept. Eddie Paul, he did the quad montage layout, and the artist Brian Bysouth. This first poster is a British quad that we're looking at.
We've talked about what a US 1 sheet and a British quad and all that stuff is in early episodes. We're not going to repeat that here. We're talking at this point about the British quad.
Yeah.
I think I actually prefer quads. Like, I still have the 1 sheet traditionally ingrained in my mind, but the quad, maybe it's just because the quads, like, growing up and like progressing as a movie fan in the early aughts and seeing really cool quads versus some of the 1 sheets you get, there's more room to do things. And we're going to do that with For Your Eyes Only.
Plus, it's more like a movie screen. I mean, it's like a mini movie screen as opposed to some portrait, right? I like the landscape kind of quad idea.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right. Now, is it time for my lame joke? I prefer glutes to quads. But, hey, I'm looking at a poster with a woman's butt on it. What can
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right. I have no idea what I'm going to edit.
The joke.
I have no idea what I'm going to edit.
We'll leave all that. That's good.
Okay. All right. So in this quad, we get a black strip on the bottom, and we get the yellow letters, Roger Moore, James Bond 007, For Your Eyes Only. And it's a striking way to present it, and it keeps the text off of the nice imagery we see above it. So, Mike, what's your analysis on this one?
Well, I actually see it as a close cousin to The Spy Who Loved Me poster art, because when you want to talk about the sort of not crowded, but like the busy James Bond poster art, that's one of the ones that always sticks in my mind, with Bond and Anya sort of standing back to back in the center, and then all this stuff is happening and the gigantic craft is behind them. Like that was that was sort of the one that opens the door to what we're seeing here. And actually, with the coloring and the undersea imagery, it kind of reminds me of Thunderball to an extent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the details of this particular quad from For Your Eyes Only.
Well, I also forgot that you have the right side that has all of the Switzerland snow-based action. And then, of course, who can forget that wonderful helicopter with a curious character dangling from the blade. I wonder who that could have been. Yeah, of course, that's you get 2 Roger Moores for the price of 1 on here, because that's him dangling in the pre-title sequence.
You can see his face clearly in both.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why he's aiming up the gun. He's like, wait a minute, I thought I was down here. That was more of a Lazenby. That was oh man. More usually comes out when I throw in the one-liners.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you have everything here that highlights the set pieces that are coming. Even the yellow Citroen is there, jumping over another car.
On the left, you got the claw machine. You've got all of this stuff is packed in this poster, which I like because it's telling you part of the story that we're going to see, right? You got everything. You got
Wait,
the
a poster's supposed to sell a movie? I'm learning this right now.
But can't give it away.
You got motorcycles with guys on motorcycles with guns and the whole thing is chasing a skier. Ski guys firing. I mean, this is all in this one poster. This is pretty cool, right?
Sell a Muppet movie like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and we there's other things. We see, the motorcycle chase. We get the Citroen chase. There's underwater elements on the left, as Mike just said, but we also get the Lotus, because there's a Lotus in this one as well. Which could
float in this one, but apparently Wet Nelly was taken out of commission after the spy.
They decided to get it as high up as possible and put it up in the Alps.
Look, that's how you really field test a product. You got to do the extremes, and then LA bumper to bumper traffic.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's in the poster, which is great.
And that chase underwater is by Aristotle Christados' goons. Now, we have to remember that Christados is played by the great Julian Glover. And we have an entire episode where we sat down with him to discuss this movie and more. So check that out on Cracking the Code of Spy Movies.
As in most of the James Bond posters, there's always some sexual content. And not that I'm looking for it, but
you know it when you see
sometimes. Sometimes a pair of legs is just a pair of legs.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. All right. So
and nary the two still meet. Unless.
So here we're looking through the legs in this poster of a scantily clad woman with a crossbow in her right hand. Well, we know it's Melina Havelock, played by Carol Bouquet, who I thought was very effective in the movie and gorgeous. Now, Bond is in the background, framed, I'm going to say, by her legs. Well, framed is the nice word. I think Bond is, I think to put it bluntly, is between her legs and aiming his weapon, his gun, I mean,
wait, Dan,
simultaneously.
Where are you going with that?
I don't know what that means. I have no idea.
The gun is pointed to the left side of the frame. It's not pointed where you're saying.
I'm just pointing it out.
Better watch where you point that thing. Yeah. Well, again, again, I already mentioned that For Your Eyes Only's quad looks like a cousin to Bob Peake's The Spy Who Loved Me artistry, and that there is a lot going on with this image. One thing I wanted to note with the legs, with Melina's legs, is the fact that not only is this a common motif throughout the marketing, but the framing, while being pretty suggestive, is a subtle hint to how he is sort of a subordinate to her. He kind of takes a back seat, in a sense, to her quest for vengeance after her parents are killed by Christados.
Yes.
And he, again, he mostly does not romance her through this picture, except at the end, because how else is a phone call with Margaret Thatcher supposed to end? But in a way, you could...
True.
There's only one of two ways, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a way, Bond is sort of knocked down a peg. And not even in a bad way, because he's sort of a mentor to Melina, and he's telling her about the ways of revenge and the way that this film opens ties into that so beautifully. And this also strengthens my theory that you could see For Your Eyes Only as the prototype for Quantum of Solace down the line. Like,
no, that's a good point. I like that.
Yeah.
And I think what you're pointing out here is he's more of a subjective kind of person in this poster, I think, as opposed to the dominant kind of person. And that's different for Bond posters and for the movies. All right, there is another variation of this poster, and it's a US 1 sheet. And here we have the same image looking through Melina Havelock's legs, but no side elements here. The words on the top read, "No one comes close to James Bond 007." Now, Bond is framed between her legs again, but this time is moving to his left with a pistol in his left hand. His eyes seem to be fixed right on her face or on a different part of her anatomy, lower, like maybe between the waist, below the waist. I don't know. I can't exactly see where he's looking, but if you follow his eyes like with a piece of paper, you could line it up.
I've said it before, Dan. You got to get your mind out of the gutter.
I don't know. I'm just walking the street and there's gutters everywhere. I mean, that's the way it is.
Roger Moore as Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 and Eyes Up Here.
Eyes up here. Mr. Bond, eyes up here.
Well, again, it's the way that he's poised with the pistol is kind of more, it kind of puts him more in a more vulnerable state.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bond is almost cowering despite no one comes as close to 007. It's almost as if Melina is in control of the narrative. And if you've read the short story, she very much is in control of what's going on here. So you could say that this is an enlightened US 1 sheet. But, having to sell these pictures to different demographics, obviously, James Bond is a hometown hero for the UK. They're the ones that usually use the quad format, so it's going to be more of a traditional thing. Whereas US is 1 sheet country, and this is a very interesting way of conveying a similar message without, again, having all that stuff that's going on the side. It's like, this is an effective full screen edit versus the widescreen.
Yeah, and Bond in this 1 sheet looks like he's more reacting as opposed to taking control, right? He's like, oh, shoot, I got to react to this kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. So,
yeah, and instead of the stuff to the sides like you were talking about, you get this 007 image saying 007 fading in fading black. And it's below Bond's feet, and it's repeated 3 times. So instead of getting, here's all the stuff you're going to see, this is 007, and this might be a little dark.
Yeah, or fading. He's fading. His power here is fading a little in this particular shot. So I like that. I like that concept.
I just thought of something with that 007 motif.
Yeah.
How does Never Say Never Again open? It has 007 all across the screen, and it's zooming in and then going into the picture.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they saw an advanced cut and were like, okay, they're gonna trade on brand recognition. We're gonna mess with them a little, and then that just
that's good.
Right
I
up
like
there.
That. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So in summary, For Your Eyes Only, the posters, we're getting our point of view shots, and Bond is framed from below. Melina Havelock's legs dominate the image, and Bond is more of a reactive kind of person here, and not the dominant person.
Well, yeah, and I think it really kind of sets up that shift we talked about earlier. Right, that there's a shift in the way things are going, and that the woman's going to become more important in it.
Yeah, I mean, here Bond is definitely not in control in either of the posters we just looked at, and so again, maybe a reference to the short story, but we rarely see James Bond movie posters where he is not really in control or the dominant image, so it's different. So these are rare, I think, and this is 1981. So here's the insight we see: the posters flip the power dynamic. Bond is more observing, not dominating. She has him between her legs, but she's in control. Now, remember on the top, she was pretty good if she got you between her legs. So I'm just saying, I'm just reporting. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, okay. On the top didn't exist at this point.
That is interesting to bring in, because when you fast forward to GoldenEye and one of the big posters for that, you've got Pierce Brosnan in the floating heads at the top, but then you also have Famke Janssen and Isabella Scorpio. If I'm mixing up her name, I'm sorry, but you've got all 3 of them sort of equal. He's slightly above, but that might have been beautiful hair. But all of them are just pretty equal, and then Bond is running from an explosion on the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. All right, now in this poster, I think the hidden gem here is her weapon, the crossbow instead of a gun. And it might signal a shift towards more realism. I mean, remember, we're coming off of Moonraker and the laser guns.
Yeah.
So here we've got something that's much more well-grounded. And it also shows a confidence in herself because she's using a crossbow, not some high-powered rifle or something.
Yeah, all out of the short story that comes from, and she is dominant, really dominant in the short story. I mean, Bond has all he can handle with her in the short story, and even more than you see here in the posters or the movie.
Take a look at the tagline at the top of the poster. No one comes close to 007. With this power dynamic, with this dominance of Melina, that feels like sort of a tip of the water to how aligned these two really are. But also the fact that this is the main driver is her vengeance. Like, yeah, Bond wants to go get the ATAC. That's something that is definitely a crucial part of the film. But you could really see the main driver is Melina wanting to avenge her parents. And let's not forget, this film opens with one of the rare references to Tracy Bond throughout the continuity, where, James is visiting the grave. And this whole film sort of shows about what he's learned about craving vengeance. And I mean, I don't know if he really learned anything because he did dump Blofeld into a smokestack in pre-credits, but
the theoretic Blofeld.
Theoretic Blofeld.
Well, maybe that was him just kind of saying, okay, I'm going to put this, I'm learning, but I still got to get rid of this dude, and we can go forward from there.
Yeah. I mean, Blofeld's still a bad dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this poster probably launched 1,000 confused discussions, much like this, But here we are. We're on top of it. Or someone was.
Okay, Dan. Let's move on to Octopussy in 1983. We
the
alluded
least
to this poster.
Suggestive James Bond film ever.
Yes, exactly.
Octopussy. Here we go. 1983.
Yeah. Now, the main artwork for the 1983 James Bond Octopussy poster was created by American artist Dan Gozzi. Now, he designed the primary one-sheet poster that featured Roger Moore and Maude Adams. You may remember that we talked about Dan in our episode where we talked about the Moonraker poster. And he also was involved in a View to a Kill poster as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
And then the vivid action-oriented scenes for other promotional materials were painted by Renato Casaro. Now, in the Octopussy posters, we swing back towards the spectacle a little bit more than what we got in A View to a Kill.
Yeah.
What, you mean a woman with 8 arms is spectacle? That's a spectacle? That's not just a random Tuesday? And again, I forgot to look into the exact numbers and critical reactions at the time, but I almost feel like the way Octopussy was handled was a pendulum swing to the response from For Your Eyes Only, because that was Roger Moore's most stone cold, sober Bond adventure. And while I think it works, I love that film. I think it actually, in fact, I love it so much. I think that is the most underrated Bond film now since On Her Majesty's Secret Service has finally found its footing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah. But this Majesty became the text to the Craig era. It's like the sacred text to how that played out. But For Your Eyes Only still kind of sits there. Like the one time they had the whole collection streaming except for that. And I was wondering what happened with that. It was always felt like the odd man out.
Yeah.
But we kind of needed to go back to 007's fight in Russia. There's a nuke. We need broads, bullets, bullies on this poster. We need action. We need paintings of Fabergé eggs and sniper rifles.
Well, we get all of that here.
Do we?
Yes. Especially on the British quad.
Jump on the quad.
Yeah, one of the most famous posters is this British quad that depicts Bond is in a tux holding a gun with the barrel and silencer pointed upwards on the left, and with a woman in a red leggy dress, Octopussy, behind him. Now, because this is Octopussy, there are 8 arms. Mike, you mentioned this earlier. 8 arms around or touching James Bond. This is a nice touch. but really, it should be expected, right? Now, it appears that she, Octopussy, has one hand around his back touching Bond's left ear. But, okay, let's get to the hidden sexual stuff.
Oh,
Not
so
that I
hidden.
want to point this out,
So
but
hidden.
there happens to be some here, and it's our job to point it out. Her right hand seems to be fingering Bond's gun.
Well, which one's her right hand? There are 8 of them.
Her right, your left.
Specifically, the silencer or suppressor. Now, what can that mean? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just pointing out that's where her hand is on his gun. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, guns and men. I don't know what that possibly stands for. I mean,
I don't either, Mike.
Let's not go back. I mean, we're not going to repeat the phrase "she's fingering his silencer," but I mean, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is he may not be silent when she's through with him.
She keeps it up. He might go off half cocked.
Holy
Right,
gosh!
I'll cut that one.
And you go, that's a word.
Clearly, she's always been a hands-on sort of girl.
Yes,
but that is like, again, the woman is taking control, and she's kind of covering the silencer, like with her finger in the silencer is almost like, we know you're not going to shoot. You don't need that. You don't need that here. We're good. I mean, it's obvious sexual innuendo that could also be easy to miss because this is, again, busy and action and the gorgeous Casado paintings. Like, I cannot stress enough how good painted movie posters look. And especially when we lost Drew Struzan not too long ago, who was an ace at painting for things like Indiana Jones, almost the whole Indiana Jones series, Spielberg films, the Harry Potters, The Thing. Like it really was an art form, and trying to put these elements in there is part of that art form because Bond does have his finger on the trigger. So he's ready to go. But you could say this may be her definition of safe sex. Moving through the Bond imagery, though, there is one hand unbuttoning his tux jacket, but another hand holding a blade down, sort of in a stabbing, slicing motion.
So she's a little duplicitous.
Yes, it is your femme fatale archetype. And again, the way Maud Adams plays Octopussy, we know that she's the lead. And, when you start watching the Bond movies, you figure out early on the first person that he sleeps with is usually going to die or break bad. Right. But it's the person later on that really kind of gets to stick around. But this is a wonderful way of hinting that Maud Adams' Octopussy is completely empowered. Like, she's an arms dealer at this point. She's crucial to helping.
Well, she has 8 of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, arms dealers tend to deal in arms, my friend.
Yes.
But she's also instrumental when she's only showing 2 of them in foiling Kamal Khan's plan to help Russia basically destabilize power in Europe.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the stabbing, the knife, the blade held down and so on. And that's oftentimes a symbol. And so I like to look for symbols and things because I think they really thought through these things as they put them in these posters. And at least I'm giving them credit for this. It may be maybe not true.
No, they think through this stuff, Dan.
But this blade pointing down is often a symbol of danger, betrayal, or a femme fatale kind of thing. And maybe it's a hint here, the fact that the woman in question is a threat, and maybe not an ally or a mere romantic interest here. And Bond has to figure it all out. So I think that's all symbolized in this knife,
which is perfect because when I was preparing for this episode with you guys, obviously I'm thinking about movie posters and okay, what are they putting in here? What are they trying to do? And especially with Living Daylights, I kind of came to this realization, but now it applies to Octopussy retroactively. They just need to get you in for the first act. They need to get you into the theater for the first act. There you go. Any good movie poster, that's all they need. And then the rest of it unfolds on the screen. Yep. So showing Octopussy as a potential threat, that's all you need right there. There's still a little bit of romance. There's danger, but they don't need to flat out write on her dress and sequence, by the way, she's good.
Right.
There you go.
Now, what they do write, though, there's some words at the top right that say James Bond's all-time high, which obviously are referring to the lyrics of the title song.
Yeah.
And there are many variations of this artwork used in other Octopussy posters. For example, Australia and other countries too. So we get glimpses into the movie on the left and the right side of the two main figures.
Yeah.
On the left, you get to see a train with two figures fighting on a roof. There's a car on a parallel track trying to keep up with the train.
Yeah.
The Taj Lake Palace in Udaipur, the Acrostar jet, all of that stuff's there.
There's a lot in there, and all of this you're going to see in the movie.
There's even a Fabergé egg in there somewhere. I mean,
Yes.
that you know, one of those old things.
Yeah. All right. And on the right, you have a slew of circus animals. Prince Kamal Khan. He's aiming a hunting rifle. We get the yo-yo saw, which I just loved.
There's everything in this poster.
Gabinda, the Octopussy troupe. I mean, the whole movie is revealed in this single poster. The thing is, if you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't know what it all means and you want to go and find out.
Yeah, like you said, Mike, this is the calling card here. Hey, come in and see this movie. All
Just
right,
get him
now
in the
let's
door.
let's look at the advanced British quad, which has Octopussy on the left side of the poster in a gauzy see-through red outfit with Bond on the right. And the poster reads, "Nobody does it better, ... 13 times." Ooh. So the Bond on the right has what looks like an infinity of images of Bond trailing from the right of the poster towards the middle. Well, there are actually 13 Bonds to support the fact that Octopussy is the 13th Eon James Bond movie and to support the "Nobody does it better 13 times" tagline. So this is, I think, clever. And in this one, Octopussy is the dominant figure, with Bond smaller and trailing off smaller and smaller 13 times. Wow. I want to point this out because there are not a lot of sexual overtones in this poster.
Oh, you got your mind out of the gutter.
Well, because I'm just looking at the poster and analyzing. That's all I do. Though Bond looks like he will be devoured by Octopussy here, though. It does look like that. All 13 of them. I mean, just wow. And lastly, there's a quick look at a US 1 sheet with the images reused of Bond and Octopussy that we saw in the British quad that we first looked at, with the 8 arms around his body, her hand on his gun, and all that.
Yeah, and again, in this one, we get the James Bond's all-time high, referencing the title song.
The title song that Tim Rice had such wonderful things to say in that documentary. Say about that documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, and I also, to put, all right, I get that it's the 13th movie, and I get nobody does it better 13 times, but this is Octopussy. We're dealing with 8s here, people. Nobody does it better 13 times, but it's 8. Look, I know, like, whatever. You know what? The big top nuclear bomb defusal scene still plays for me. It's certainly not the most awkward James Bond movie. Well, it is the most awkward James Bond movie of 1983, but we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah.
But go back to that all-time high. I mean, that's certainly that has a double meaning to it as well, right? That has another entendre that doubles it.
Yes,
right. Yeah.
It sounds to me like they're a little numerically challenged with this movie.
Also, you would think she'd have 8 legs instead of 8 hands, but
Yes.
I guess for Bond that would make things a lot more complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. We also have an image with an explosion. We get Octopussy circus girls in action, but there's also the Acrostar jet flying from the top left towards the bottom right, and there's a missile trailing it closely. It's another hint of what's going to happen in the movie, the pre-title to be specific with the Acrostar. But the jet is positioned flying right across their knees up front.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a symbol of danger. He's going to take out their knees.
Well, it might be, but I mean, it's flying across their knees, Tom. You got to remember that. So maybe Bond needs to get it up.
Oh, geez, Dan. You really said it. You went there.
I mean, the plane. I'm talking about the plane. What do you... Get your mind out of the gutter, Tom. All right.
That plane's heading for the gutter.
Yeah. Now, I think in all these posters, we got Bond being calm. He's deliberate looking. He's there.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely, I mean, that's always been sort of the Roger Moore era, where even you just go back to something like Moonraker. You've got that wonderful image of him in the spacesuit and he's holding up the laser pistol, but it's still that very stock still, like, studious Bond expression. And that can almost be overlooked as sort of a hidden gem itself. But in the case of Octopussy, what hidden gems we have here is a bunch of stuff that's hidden in the sense of visual chaos. You've got multiple women, bright colors, everything is busy. You've got circus animals in the quad. And that's something that especially ties into the fact that there is a circus-like nature of this film, which again ties back to that big top scene where I don't care what you think about this movie, Roger Moore dressed as a clown trying to defuse an atomic bomb is still a moment that just plays like a charm with this. This is one of my lower ranked films, but I still have that ingrained in my head.
Yes, there you go.
And and it works because of the setting.
Exactly. And also Bond's still our center point in these posters. He's still the anchor. Everything radiates around him and you know, sort of surrounds him. He is that calm anchor towards everything that is chaotic.
Yeah. So it's the chaos. He's calm. Yeah.
He's very calm. Now, look for a general insight here. The posters visually tell us there's chaos, and well, this movie goes everywhere. But as we've said, Bond is there calm. He's holding it together. And this poster visually says to us, this movie is everywhere, but Bond just holds everything together. Yeah. And subtlety is not going to be invited to this party if you look at this poster.
Oh, that got lost in the mail a long time ago. And again, especially considering the film that we're going to take a detour into next, because
let's do that.
I kind of wasn't expecting this, but I'm glad we're addressing the Connery in the room.
All right, so we're open-minded here. So we're going to take a little detour. Like Mike said, we're going to look at a non-Eon production James Bond movie of the 1980s, the remake of Thunderball, Never Say Never Again. And just quickly, there are some cool Never Say Never Again posters. Renato Casero and Rudy Obrero did most of the poster work. The one we are looking at has Sean Connery right in the middle, facing us, and pointing a gun right at us. The background is cream and orange, and 3 women are flanking him, and there are a couple of scenes to the left and to the right. A motorcycle jumping a car on the left, and a yacht and palm trees and other figures as well.
What I like here is the words are Sean Connery is James Bond. The double O's are scope target symbols, since they couldn't use the official James Bond logo that we're used to, nor could they use the music for that matter, and that was actually a problem for me with this movie.
They couldn't do a gun barrel either.
Yeah, they couldn't do a gun barrel. And
because this was all out of that lawsuit thing, right?
Yeah. Now, I remember when Sean Connery didn't want Eon Productions to use as a slogan, Sean Connery is James Bond. He hated that. Yet here at Never Say Never Again, the posters scream it.
Yeah. He didn't want it. Sean Connery is James Bond, because he said it. He had a video once like, I am Sean Connery, not James Bond. He was standing in front of Fort Knox. Remember that video? It's like, okay. So here he's like, yeah, you could use that. Sean Connery is James Bond. Sure.
Well, I think he wanted to stick it to Eon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. And it also just kind of reminds you the complicated legacy that he had with the role, considering how he left after You Only Live Twice. But then he comes back and does another one because Kevin McClory's building this sort of spite house of a movie. And I mean, I can totally see why he didn't like that tagline, because it is again brand confusion. And there's a thin line, as we mentioned, between the iconography you can or can't use in an official production. And that tagline just skirts it so brazenly. But also another interesting difference, and this comes to me now because we were just talking about OCTOPUSSY, and you look at Roger Moore, very serious, very self-assured. This Connery has a shit-eating grin.
Yeah,
he's smiling. He's like, "Don't you ever forget who started this?" Even though there was never animosity towards him or Roger Moore. In fact, I thought I heard that the story that surrounds this picture is they were both offered OCTOPUSSY and Never Say Never Again, and they just basically agreed, whichever one you don't want to do, I'm going to go do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fun among friends and all, but that's basically inviting people to call it the No Frills James Bond, because you can't call it a great value James Bond yet. That didn't exist in '83. I mean, if a Walmart historian wants to come and prove me wrong, that's fine. But I mean, I kind of like I like this better than OCTOPUSSY. Like, I'm sorry, again, spite house fueled remake with Kevin McClory, who plunged the franchise into this turmoil that really derailed things.
Yeah, he did. Well,
I mean,
Fleming brought it on by using some of his stuff in Thunderball. Come on.
Nobody's innocent here.
All right, let's move on to A View to a Kill 1985. We got a lot to do here. Dan Guzzi created the main widely used artwork featuring a detailed and colorful style used for U.S. posters, French billboards, and promotional materials too. Brian Bysouth and Vic Fair were responsible for the artwork on the British quad poster and a recalled British one sheet, which initially featured Bond in a white tuxedo before being changed back to black.
Ooh.
All right. First, we look at a U.S. one sheet which features James Bond and Stacy Sutton on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Bond is aiming his pistol high, standing on one of the supports, while Stacy clinging to him with a dress whose bottom is blowing up from the wind, like Marilyn Monroe's in The 7-Year Itch, if you remember, 1955, when she's standing over the subway grate. This is happening all in this poster. It's
Stacy's standing over the San Francisco Bay. So,
yeah.
It's a windy place.
Yeah.
The windy place. And it's a well-balanced piece of artwork with the blue waters of the bay, the city in perspective in the background, and Bond dominating the scene, other than the bridge, of course, which looks larger than life. But wow, that's a very nice poster, I think.
Oh yeah. And that is sort of a swing back to classic Bond spectacle, because again, Bond is dominating. Stacy Sutton is not exactly the most take charge Bond woman, and that's no knock towards her, but that's just how the character was written. And I'm sure, Bond history has so many echoes throughout it. This was the shout that would then echo in Denise Richards as Dr. Christmas Jones, which again didn't deserve the hate.
Right.
I agree.
Something else that this piece of art did for me, at least, the way that Christopher Walken's looming in the Zorin blimp, on top of how everything else is framed, like this whole thing is a case of like slight exaggeration. And the way he's leaning out of that blimp is like, no one should be able to lean out of a blimp like that. Now, and because of that, it reminds me of the box art for Police Academy 4 Citizens on Patrol. And I dare anybody to look at this. I dare anyone to look at this and not think the same thing. He's just leaning out there like, Bond, what are you doing?
Yeah, and we'll have that poster in this thing. That's a great call out.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so in the poster we're talking about here, you get minimal clues as to what might happen in the movie other than the whole bridge scene. We have the blimp and Bond and Sutton, and that's about it. Sutton is clinging to Bond, obviously deferring to him for protection and safety. That's what that means. Her hands are clinging to him, one behind his back, the left hand grabbing his chest. So when you see a woman doing this, especially in a marketing poster, when the image must convey a lot quickly, it usually means several things. One, it could be a desperate attempt through visualization that might mean I am taking claim to this man. But here, she looks straight ahead at the pending danger, assumingly anyway, as does Bond pointing his gun in that same direction. It also means fear and need of protection. To me, this looks more like she is saying this with her actions, not words. And I need you to protect me, Bond. I am defenseless without you. A Bond woman in distress. A plea for help.
It could also indicate a heightened sense of closeness or even some kind of intimacy with her and Bond. We're in danger, but we're okay because we have each other.
Yeah. I think it's more of a sign of distress.
I mean, considering how they're standing on that support beam, either that wind is very strong, that dress is made of parachute material, or they're falling off of there, and Zorin doesn't even need to fire a shot. So yeah, I would say danger. I'm voting danger.
Yeah, me too. All right, the Golden Gate Bridge is certainly one of the hidden gems here because it is massive. It stretches on and on with all kinds of cables and structures to support it in this long horizontal landscape. And it screams danger, like you're saying, Mike, and instability. And I guess there is a hidden gem here, too. The odd thing here is that Stacy is depending so much on Bond to save her, yet Bond is looking straight ahead while Zorin, leaning out of the blimp with what seems to be a weapon, is just about above Bond's right shoulder. Bond's not even looking at him. He's looking the wrong way. This may indicate that Bond might be deceived as to where the real danger is. Again, we're getting this in the poster. And in A View to a Kill, Zorin does deceive Bond for a while with the doping horses plot, and while the real danger was Project Mainstrike, which was Zorin's plan to trigger a massive earthquake by detonating explosives along the San Andreas Fault in his Mainstrike mine. So, destroyed Silicon Valley. He has complete monopoly on the microchip industry. So, now, the tagline, though, has James Bond finally met his match? Well, we're gonna assume no.
We're going to assume no. Now, Dan, this may disappoint you, but there's not much sexual innuendo in this poster.
Tom, I didn't look for it.
Yeah, you didn't have to put your head in the gutter on this one.
Unless you count that support looking like a giant rod underneath the both of them.
Oh, Mike, good point.
The city of San Francisco's getting it tonight.
You had to take
That's a
it
good
there.
point. That's a good point.
Now,
I like that.
Bond's left knee is firmly between her legs at crotch height, but
See, Tom?
that's going to happen if you've got two people holding on to each other.
Yeah, I guess.
Nothing in a Bond poster is coincidence. So this poster it's intended to grab us and engage us in a very basic way. So let's move on to one of the more visually symbolic posters. And there's also a US 1 sheet. We're pulled into Paris, France, and the Eiffel Tower might be the gem here. It's a massive structure, just like the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Mm-hmm. But unlike the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a horizontal challenge, the Eiffel Tower is tremendous vertically. So the poster has to change how we show things. And this again suggests danger, susceptibility, and stability. So in this poster, this one sheet, we've got Bond on the tower. He's high above the city, which we see below of Paris. But Mayday is appearing to be swooping down on him, unbeknownst to Bond, from behind him as he faces forward to confront where he thinks the danger is.
Oh, yeah. She looks like she's going to totally kick him off of that tower and into the next picture.
Yes.
And her look disrupts the traditional Bond aesthetic because this is that shift back to a powerful female, and she's the female antagonist in this film, played beautifully by Grace Jones, who just, again, even in the Bond movies that don't always work, factors like her and Christopher Walken being titans in this film are two of the things that I love the most in here. Yeah. And Bond seems to be out of sync because he doesn't see the danger. Roger Moore's just posing like, yes, James Bond. And she's like, I got words for you, bud. Like right in from the back. And
she kind of looks like Tarzan swinging in.
I think she kind of looks like a cyborg assassin, to be honest. The way that she's like gleaming there, and it's not too far from the truth because Mayday is supremely powerful. Yes, and this just conjures an image of a movie I kind of wish existed. Because View to a Kill is pretty uneven. I mean, even with some wonderful little detours, like Patrick McNee from the Avengers. Patrick McNee from being that's another wonderful thing to look at. But we don't get a lot of graphics or visual busyness showing us scenes. We're focusing on a set piece. On one thing. And I mean, the only way you could really make this poster better is if you see Duran Duran waiting in the on the deck there. Get some brand synergy going.
Yeah. Now this is another poster that I don't really see sexual innuendos in, Dan. Sorry to disappoint you.
Well, you do have the tall tower. That's all you have. That might be, whatever. But I think you're right.
Boy, the world you live in.
Look, we only get the base. We're not getting the tip here.
Just the tip.
Okay, all right. This poster kind of hints at a more modern, edgier Bond world than we've seen before in the other posters. So it's a little different shift here. And it's probably the most intimidating co-star Bond ever had in a poster like this. I mean, she, like you said, Mike, she's swooping down on him. And he doesn't even know what's going on. All right.
Oh, yeah. And by the time you get to that scene with the two of them sort of courting, it's like the expectation's firmly in there. But again, Grace Jones was someone who came with this cultural footprint going into this movie. So it really is, it's something that suits her more than Roger Moore.
Yeah,
and
right.
if you zoomed to like these days, that would have been like an individual poster for her, and it would have been like Mayday, View to a Kill. Well, whereas Roger Moore's looking like
As you're focusing on Roger Moore here, let's leave his world and switch the actors who play Bond. Right?
Yes.
So let's jump into 1987 with Timothy Dalton as James Bond, and into
that was Pierce Brosnan. Oh wait, 11th minute. No. That was just a joke.
Oh,
because of the whole 11th hour thing. He was cast, and then
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So we thought we were going to have Pierce Brosnan then, but we get Timothy Dalton in The Living Daylights in 1987. And we're going to look at the hottest poster from this movie, the one-sheet cinema poster that depicts James Bond in the gun barrel off to the right and distant, while a woman in a white tight dress clinging sexually to her body. Dan, here you go. Especially her backside. She's holding a pistol in her right hand, stretched down along the side of her right leg. It's a stunning poster.
It is a stunning poster. Yes. This is often called the night dress teaser, featuring a see-through negligee. Now, several artists worked on this poster, and it involved art direction by Jeffrey Bacon and design by David Renerick, with photography by Jim McCrary. Now, the woman in the photo here is not Miriam Dabo, but a model, Kathy Stengel. So Bond, in his black tux, is pointing a weapon towards her. Maybe she is supposed to be Cara Malovi, probably. Looks like her. So the model, Kathy Stengel, did a pretty good job of that. Now, living on the edge is the only way he lives is the tagline. Oh, yeah, we have come to learn that Bond does live on the edge, constantly and in every regard. So, with Bond in the gun barrel, which we have seen in the start of so many Bond movies, we get the feeling here that the producers wanted to make sure, though we have a new actor playing Bond, that yes, this is James Bond. Here's the gun barrel, so you all feel comfortable. But here, Bond is aiming his gun at this woman, but her gun is at her side. So it appears as though she is not presenting an immediate threat to Bond. Yet, Bond does aim at her.
And I mean, looking at that tagline, living on the edge, it's the only way he lives. That also ties into the familiarity of the character. It's like, Bond is not changing. The actor may have changed, but the game is not changing here. Yeah. And that's something that rides that line where it's like, yes, you can be sure this is a Bond movie, but it's not just playing the hits. This is something that is definitely of the era, but also traditional. And to that point, I also noticed that this could be the world of Bond tapping into the iconography of erotic thrillers, which were becoming a very popular subgenre in the mid to late 80s. And then a couple years down the line, you get Basic Instinct sort of hitting the peak of it. Right. And the subgenre is hitting its stride here. The nitrous version of Cara, along with the tagline, invokes her being a potential danger. And I mean, we could just call out the innuendo here. Her gun's silenced, his isn't, hers is bigger. So size sometimes does matter. But also just, we know that this turns out to be a warmer relationship in the end. Going back to what I said earlier, this is a nice teaser and misdirect that gets people in for the first act. It gets you into the theater. And
it's one of my favorite posters.
And then you learn it. And then you learn the truth and see everything. And it's Dalton's era, for as short as it is, has some of the most potent iconography with its marketing materials.
Yeah. Terrific stuff. And I loved him as Bond. Now, in the movie, Cara Malovi was this naive would-be assassin set up by her lover, KGB General Koskov. In order to make his fake defection to the British appear legitimate, Koskov convinces his girlfriend, Cara, a cellist, to play the role of an assassin who wants to shoot him. Her rifle, of course, has blanks, and probably Koskov thought she might be killed in this whole process. So
leave no witnesses. Nobody knows the plan.
Yeah, so in the poster, maybe Bond is not yet convinced of Cara Malovi not being a threat and has his weapon at the ready. So we're tying this all back to the poster. We remember Bond does see her in the window with the rifle and decides not to kill her. This poster may be a way to represent that process.
Well, but it is a beautiful poster and one of my all-time favorites, like you said too, Dan. I mean, it's indeed sexy. The woman looks stunningly beautiful. And the lighting, the way they've got it, that you can see through the dress. It's just tremendous artistic genius.
Yes, it is. And now the second poster we're going to look at is the opposite. We don't have any of that kind of stuff going on. It's pretty straightforward. It's a one sheet with Timothy Dalton as Bond looking over his right shoulder, right at us, holding his Walther in his right hand, pointing upwards. It's very simple. The tagline, the most dangerous Bond ever. Ooh.
Oh, if you ever needed a marketing approved equivalent to saying we must go back to Fleming, that's it, baby. That's it right there.
That's it.
And I mean, again, this is a point where you're introducing someone new in this role. And that is iconic because you've got the Dalton stare and just the stone coldness of it. And this man just did not, I mourn what we could have had with a couple more Dalton films.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think this poster also shows us that this Bond, Timothy Dalton Bond, is going to make a fundamental and substantial shift from the Bond we saw Moore play, like you talked about going back to Fleming. And Dalton did deliver on this promise. And he was probably the most Fleming Bond we've seen. And this shift is something Bond fans embraced with open arms. But others thought, this is just too serious a Bond for me. I like the joviality of Roger Moore.
Yeah. The shift is dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was him suiting the character, tailoring the character towards who he was, because he never liked the stone cold assassinness of it. And he was never going to play that. You got it a little bit with Live and Let Die. And then, of course, somewhat in For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah.
But those were like course corrections compared to the major trajectory where it's just wearing nice suits and having pithy one-liners. And again, they're not my favorite run of films, but that is the aspect of his character and portrayal that I will always love.
Here in this poster, you're being told that's gone, right? You get this great version of Bond. Bond's stern face staring us down delivers that message. This Bond is different. Be ready for it.
Yeah, and there's no women in the poster, no smiles,
Sorry,
no
Dan.
action sequences, no action sequences giving us hints as to what might happen in the movie. It's just stark, dark, and in-your-face seriousness in tone and presentation. No sexual suggestions even, unless you want to look at Bond's gun pointing up, straight up. That's the only thing, maybe. But,
I mean, I would counter as saying maybe the sexual suggestion is Timothy Dalton not only looks at you like a capable killer, but a capable lover.
There you go. All
The
right.
ladies get the poster that says, yes, I'm safe with him, and the men get the poster saying she's safe with him. Yep.
All right, there you go.
But I love this poster. I've already given it so much love, and I have to caveat that with, if it wasn't for another one we're going to be discussing very soon, I would love this better. Dangerous Timothy Dalton, something I'll always appreciate, but you're going to see me going to overdrive with the next one.
Okay.
The one I hinted at.
So let's shift to another one from this movie. And this is the international one sheet. And it's a very different feel. It does show us the gun barrel with Bond in the center of it, solidifying that, yes, this is James Bond. It has blood about to drip down. It also shows us some glimpses into the movie. On the left, we see the Aston Martin V8 Volante convertible. It's a very cool Aston, and the first
Very
one
cool.
used since the 70s. The movie used another Aston Martin, the V8 Vantage, which modified with the hardtop, studded tires. There was that retractable outrigger skis for the icy terrain, and a rocket motor because you need that. Q was just
every
that
Bond
good.
car should have it. Yeah.
Extra traction on the snow.
Yeah, so in this poster, we see the Aston convertible. Those skis are engaged. It's firing missiles from the front, hidden behind the fog lights. This is feeling like Bond. This, to me, kind of ties it back more to the Sean Connery Bond, right?
Yeah.
We see on the left a desert battle going on with a bridge exploding behind an airplane, armored vehicles giving us more hints as to what might have happened on this mission. I think it's just really solid. And then if we look to the other side of the poster, to the right side, we get a couple more figures, guns, a helicopter, a desert battle with horses. I mean, there's more hints as to what we're going to get to. And then Dan, finally, in the lower right, We get a woman lying
Yes, we
down
do.
seductively with her legs pointing toward the center of the poster.
Yeah, yeah. And what I love about this poster is all the images you're talking about are integrated and brought into the gun barrel. They're all around the gun barrel. And that is, I thought was beautiful. That was a great way to do it. Never saw that before. That was terrific.
Because again, that's the opening. That is the start of a Bond.
Yeah.
No matter who that person is in the tuxedo, that is the first image you usually start with until we get into the Craig era where they played with it, rightfully so. But that is how you normally start. So to have Timothy Dalton in that center and all of this color and action, I mean, I don't know if it's the traditionalist in me or the ADHD kid in me. I love this image. As I will attest, I love this image.
Yes, it's your background.
It's even better in the quad because again, that quad layout lets you go wide and just has it encompasses it so much better. And as we're going to see in both the Brosnan and Craig eras, this sort of approach continues to wind down and be relegated to alternate posters in other markets. World Is Not Enough. It has one of my favorite examples of that happening where you could feel that the people brought in to do the poster are like, okay, I will fill the brief, but you have to let me at least try this. Like give a traditional try and then do the rest of them. Yeah, sure. But you got to at least let me crack one of these out because as an artist, to know something this well and to not get to scratch that itch is one of the most frustrating things. And that's something, this is an indication of Hollywood moving into the era of floating heads and Photoshop posters and walking away from the more artistically fulfilling paintings or what have you. But I mean, you'll still see some pretty beautiful work in that realm today. It's just, again, the template's kind of changed.
Yeah. And we do have a Bond girl in the poster, which is nice. So we know we're going to get a Bond girl from this poster. We didn't get that from the first poster we took a look at, too.
But then you even see Kara here, and the way Kara is presented, she's gorgeous, she is seductive, but it's not leaning too much into it. She's not too seductive. You still see the sort of beam between innocence, just the innocence. Like this probably gives the game away here. It's like you see the innocence of Kara.
Yeah.
Framed against Koskov and Whitaker. And that's sort of, if you read the poster that way, you're sort of you see the game given away.
Yeah, these posters are great. And I think there's some gems in these posters as well. We talked about some of them, I think, already, but they establish a new Bond, Timothy Dalton. There's a definite darker color palette to these posters, and they pay attention when they're creating the stuff to the color palette. We talked to Roberto Schaefer, who was the director of photography for Quantum of Solace, and he talked a lot about the color palettes that they used for that movie. So here in the poster, they selected these dark color palette and so on. So it's less vibrant, it's more serious in tone. It's signaling a tonal shift from the character that we were used to with Moore. You get this sense that there's this hidden danger lurking right behind Bond and all around Bond in these posters. So it's pretty good. The bottom line is Bond is getting serious again. Some people loved it. I did. Some people did not. So great job on the posters for establishing the shift to a new Bond, a new actor playing Bond, and the shift he will bring to the character.
Let's move on then to the 1989 movie, License to Kill. It's the last James Bond movie of the 1980s, and unfortunately, the last James Bond movie for Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
But he continues Bond's character as cold, dark, and vengeful. The primary theatrical posters for them were designed by Robin Bailing and featured photography by Keith Hampshire and Douglas Kirkland. Now, remember that the initial title was License Revoked. So there was some artwork done for that title, mostly by Bob Peake, who you might recall did the great poster artwork for the British quad posters in The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, these License Revoked teaser posters were discarded when the title was changed. So I'm sure we're showing you here in our YouTube version of this podcast, this poster, but you're not going to find this everywhere because it's a tough one to find.
Yeah. I mean, good reason if you're a studio head, because it's like, okay, why do we need to keep these around? The movie's not called License Revoked, and I can see why License Revoked was not the final title, because it doesn't pop as much as License to Kill. Like, people have to ask the question, wait, what license is revoked? What?
Yeah.
It's not as sexy. But that poster, on the other hand, is a perfect teaser. And if I'm not mistaken, this artwork was also popped up at the Cannes Film Festival through the campaign that was selling the movie. Like at the Ritz-Carlton, they had a huge arch, I know, that said Timothy Dalton as James Bond 007 and license revoked.
Yeah.
And this is just...
Yeah.
Like, if this was done now, it would be a variant steelbook for when the movie goes to home video. And I would still take that very much so. I mean, it just looks like... It looks like the sort of sophisticated air you would see in, like, product ads in the 80s. But, like some sort of cigarette or some sort of liquor where it's just like, this is living well.
Yeah.
But with a gun.
Yeah. So let's look at the first poster for License to Kill, the title they settled on, because I think they thought people wouldn't understand what revoked meant. That was one of the rumors. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. All right. The first poster we examine here for License to Kill is one everyone is familiar with, and it's very much like the Bond poster from The Living Daylights that we talked about, the first one, with just the Bond image on it. It's a British one-sheet cinema poster, but many versions of this design were used for the License to Kill posters. So we'll just look at a few. This one, again, has Bond with his Walter PPK pointing straight up, and Bond staring us down again with very serious eyes. No smile, no lightness to this. He has an unbuttoned tuck shirt on and an untied bow tie. So building on the Living Daylights tagline we talked about, the most dangerous Bond ever, here we have the tagline, his bad side is a dangerous place to be. I love that. Yeah. This is a simple tagline.
Yeah, don't get on his bad side.
It says it all, right? This would have never been a tagline for a Roger Moore Bond movie. I don't think.
And so, I also think this really positions Dalton, going back to Fleming, to make him look like James Bond is a blunt instrument of the government.
Yeah.
This is me. I'm here. I'm in your face. I've got my gun. I'm going.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's don't get on Bond's bad side or you're going to pay. So in a few short words, the designers created and recreated this image of Bond that Dalton brought to the table. I think it's brilliant.
This is my favorite variant for License, possibly my favorite for the Dalton era, and one of my all-timers for Bond posters. And it is because of that tagline. Whoever got nailed the tagline for both of the Dalton films deserves a raise. And I would this is the one that comes to mind where it's like, I want to have some commission, like an artist to like Photoshop or create a version of this with me in that. Cause this is one of my quintessential Bond images. He's out for blood. The 80s action influences are taking the front seat. And again, it does not betray the franchise. This is still the Bond that you've always known.
All right, let's move on to an international one sheet. And it gives us more details on what we might see in the movie. Again, Bond was technically not on an official mission here when he was trying to take down Sanchez as revenge for killing Felix Leiter's wife and maiming Leiter by feeding him to the sharks, remember. This poster, against a blue background and an ocean shot with a coast in the background, we see Bond running, pistol down and facing up. And behind him is 007 blazoned across the poster with from edge to edge. We also see some other images. We see Pam Bouvier and Lupe, both in black dresses and looking serious but beautiful. Carrie Lowe until Alyssa Soto. So we know, okay, we have some Bond women in this one again. And Tom, the gun is up. All right. Now.
It's a good day.
It's just saying he's prepared.
It's a good day. All right. We also see Fran Sanchez, Robert Davi, with the iguana on his left shoulder. He looks stern, mean, vicious. And we also get a hint at a chase. A tanker truck is exploding with a plane flying over it. So we get a few suggestions what might take place in the movie and who might be involved. So very compact, all in there. I thought pretty well done. I like these kind of posters because they really get your imagination going. you start making stories up in your head around the images as to what might happen. So these are powerful posters. I like them.
And this also makes for an interesting bookend to that View to a Kill Golden Gate poster we saw, because Bond is in a similar stance, running into action against an ocean-dominated canvas, and the action is unfolding to the side of him.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Yeah, that is good.
But of course, to close us out, we do have one more. And some consider it a rather unusual License to Kill poster. It's a one-sheet. But I think this kind of doubles down on Dangerous Dalton here. And it's basically you see Bond. He's the one with their legs apart this time. And his gun's pointing right at us. You got the big 007 logo to his right. Franz Sanchez dominating a third of this poster. And then a call-out box between his legs with Pam and Lupe. And one could say this is the most sexual poster of the Dalton era. Because you've got two women between his legs, his gun is drawn, and both women look tough and determined, but at the same time, tying into it, these women have agency and they're not just pushovers. They look gorgeous, but they are ready for action. But again,
they kind of look like they're going to fight for James Bond's crotch.
Or fight James Bond's crotch. They might just fight James Bond.
Foreshadowing what might happen in the movie. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you would not be able to tell if there was a pool fight between these two ladies unless you watched the film. But the actual, the most intriguing and worrisome detail about this is, again, Sanchez is a third of this poster, right behind him, single eye on him like a Terminator, and just stern, fearsome. Sanchez watching everything around him, and we see that nature come through in Robert Davi's performance, where he keeps an eye on the women and Bond, and he controls the field of play. Yeah. His face is partially in the shadows too, which makes it a bit more compelling because it's not just he's sort of a hidden danger of sorts. And when you look at the pacing of the film, he doesn't meet Sanchez until about maybe midway through, but knows of him. Knows who he's dealing with and is seeking him out. And this is another one of my favorites because it puts Bond's nemesis as a dominant figure, and it makes you think, what is happening with this movie? Who is this villain? What is he about to do? And calling back to that tractor trailer explosion, you've got these orange flames rising under Bond, almost as if to say that they're turning up the heat on him. And it's
I like that.
Yeah. You're talking about Davi here. Remember that if you go to Cracking the Code of Spy Movies, either in YouTube or in your favorite podcast app, we've got an interview of Robert Davi where he goes through everything about this movie, and it is a great interview. Now, going back to each of these posters, though, even though in this one we're talking about Sanchez's face, Bond's face is still prominent here. It dominates the first two. Sanchez dominates the third, but Bond's face is still there, front and center. He's stern.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that cannot be underestimated enough because of the fact that Sanchez was one of the best villains to tangle with Bond because he was grounded. And speaking of Robert Davi interviews, I think it may have been when they were promoting the film, there's this wonderful interview of him where he talks about how, much like Timothy Dalton used Fleming's text as his keystone, Robert Davi was right there.
Yeah.
So praising Dalton in that respect, they're both truly on a level playing field, not only as actors, but also as characters. And this is another key brick on the road that connects On Her Majesty's Secret Service all the way to Casino Royale and defines the Craig era of the soft reboot where we did go back to Fleming again.
Yeah. And you get this feeling from all the three posters we just examined that it's emotional. It's not just action, but there's emotion coming out of these posters. And we see and feel this emotion through the posters, which I think is very cool. Now, to make maybe a hidden gem in two of the three posters here is in the fire and the tones that are established, reds, oranges suggest revenge and anger and action. That's all brought out in these posters, in the two of the three posters. And I think an insight you can see here is that the posters seem to scream that, hey, this is not a mission. This is personal for Bond. We remember when Sanchez was feeding lighter to the sharks, he said, this is not personal, it's business. That's how Sanchez thought. Well, Bond Yeah, it is personal. And he was in trouble with M because of the personal aspect of his actions.
Okay, so let's kind of tie this up a little bit and have, we have a quick look and we've just seen across all of these 1980s James Bond posters. If we connect the dots, there are a few patterns here. Bond is always centered, even in chaos. He anchors the frame. Women, when present, are used as visual framing Bond or signaling the tone. And weapons become symbols. Each poster uses weapons when shown differently, from the crossbow hinting to realism to the gun, which suggests control. Or Dan thinks it indicates something else.
Well, I'm just pointing things out.
Hidden weapons indicate deception. And then finally, the shift towards darkness has begun. In the late 1980s posters, much darker and obviously more serious tones come out. There's much more emotional focus.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we casually glance at these posters, we do tend to miss a lot because posters are art. They predict the tones and shift in tones. They hint at character arcs, and they do reveal themes before the movie starts. Because again, if you can get them in for Act 1, then that's all you got to do. It's not, that's something that I think some people forget about things like this. It's not just marketing. It's not just a collectible that you put on your wall and you think it looks good. It is storytelling that has to convey a message with as little, as much as possible and as little of a space as possible.
Yeah. Storytelling in a poster. Like I said, this is the first act of any Bond movie. The story that's being told in the posters. That's great.
And that's something that we have to keep in mind when moving into the next batch of episodes you're going to be doing here, because the 90s blew up traditional filmmaking thanks to big business turbocharging its presence in filmmaking.
Yep.
And, well, let's just say the bean counters in Hollywood became more interested in their numbers rather than their artistic instincts. In some cases. In some cases. But there's still some pretty brilliant things from the Bonds franchise.
Yeah, well, in the Bond franchise, though, they hired Purvis and Wade to ruin it even more. But that's a different issue.
Cage match. Cage match.
I have to. Every episode, I have to knock them.
So. Yeah, all right. We've looked at all of the Bond posters from the 1980s James Bond movies. So that's going to be a wrap for us today. So the next time you see a Bond poster, don't just look at it. So much thought and cleverness and art has gone into each that each deserves a hard look like we're doing today. All right, so don't just look at one, decode it like we're doing. And because the clues were always there in the posters, we hope, again, that this episode helps you do that even more.
And we want to thank you, Mike Reyes, for coming in and helping us do that. We always love your energy and your knowledge here. It's just great to have you here. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dan, Tom, it is an absolute delight to be coming back. I love being here as much as you love having me here.
Thank you.
Especially when people should check out your episodes on the 60s posters with Graham Rye and the 70s posters with Bill Koenig. Where would people be able to find that, I wonder?
Cracking the code of spy movies. All right. So we'll keep cracking the code of spy movies. So join us each week. Thanks for listening and spending part of your day with us. We appreciate that. Until next time, in the world of espionage, trust no one except us.
Does that include me too? I think that includes me too.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.